It's a better day here in Cape May County than we had yesterday. My name is Vicki Clark. I'm president of the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce. We're very pleased that all of you could join us for our webinar this morning. And we're going to introduce our speaker here in just a moment. I know many of you have joined previous webinars that we've done before. We're happy that the Chamber is able to bring this educational programming to you today. We'll tell you just a little bit about that in a moment. First, I am not going to delay our program any further. I'm going to turn it over right now to Nina Rinaldi, who's just going to give everybody a little bit of information about the administrative controls about the webinar so that we can get started and get right to the meat of the program. Nina?
Thanks, Vicki. Hi, everyone. Just to let you know how we're going to work things today, everybody except our speaker will be on mute, and we certainly will be taking questions today. The way that you can submit your question is by using the chat feature on Zoom. So I see some of you already know how to do that, which is great. If you are new here, the way that you can find the chat feature is to, if you're on a computer, just move your mouse. You'll see the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of the screen. There's a chat icon there. You can click on it and type in your question. If you are on a smartphone or a tablet, you may have to tap your screen to bring up that Zoom toolbar and click chat. And in any case, if you're having trouble finding it, you may want to look for more with 3 dots on your Zoom toolbar, and the chat icon may be under there. So you can go ahead and submit your questions to the public chat, to everyone. There's no need to send them to me or to anyone privately. You can just submit them to the public chat. And I hope that everyone enjoys the program. At this point, I will turn it over to our Chamber Chairman, Doug Burke.
Thank you, Nina. Unfortunately, I think everyone by now, we're all Zoom experts, right? We've been on a bunch of these calls, and that's a credit to the Chamber team we have. Vicki and Nina and John and the whole team over there. We appreciate you guys jumping on the call this morning. We're trying, as you know, to bring as much value as we can every day to our members and those in the Cape May County business community. So again, thank you, John. We have John Blackstock on today from the SBA, and John joined us, I guess, a couple weeks ago, really, when this all started to really come together as far as the SBA, and I think that was right before the PPP loan was approved. So John had promised, and we thank him for coming back again and giving us additional insight. I think a lot of us have been working through the process, and now we're coming up with some more specific questions on what this loan's going to look like, and then into the future on forgiveness and other things. John, I know you have a few slides, and then you're kind enough to do some Q&A for us. So with that, John, the floor is yours. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. I appreciate the words. Yes, it's a pleasure to speak with Cape May. Vicki and Nina have done a great job of communicating, and their intent is to get the information out to you, the small business owners, the folks living in that area. So just to, like Doug said, came on early with the EIDL and the EIDL Advance before the PPP. So before we start, I'd like to just go over EIDL and the EIDL Advance. They are releasing funds. So if you applied for one of those two, the chances are you're going to get an email, and it looks like it's a standard email saying, you know, this is the overview of EIDL and the EIDL Advance. A lot of people take that as, wait a minute, what about my application? You call the number, people are reporting that they're not getting their lines picked up, can't speak to somebody. But then amazingly, funds are, you know, they're in your account. So whatever account number you provided, you're getting some people, the EIDL Advance and the EIDL. So the process is working. Yes, it's not as good as it probably should be, but again, every small business in the nation is applying for one of these programs. PPP, as of this morning, watch the news. I'm getting my information from headquarters, SBA headquarters. Right now, for the Paycheck Protection Plan, been approved for $242 billion. The fund, Congress has mandated that it will be funded up to $349 billion. So you can do the math. This fund is going to quickly be depleted, and hopefully Congress will, they're looking at the next iteration. So I don't know if it's going to be Paycheck Protection Program Part 2. That remains to be seen. But so let's go ahead and into the PPP program. Next slide, please. Nina, can I move these slides? Okay, so
No, John, but that's okay. I'm happy to move them for you. Just let me know when.
thank you so much. So a lot of folks, Doug was saying, you know, banks working with the bank that you work with may or may not, for whatever reason, take your application. So just try to remove emotion from it. There is a website right there, sba.gov/paycheck protection/find. My advice, if you have not done this yet, hit that link, put in your zip code, and then call the banks. Ask that person who answers the phone, are you accepting new applications, non-customers for the PPP? I think that's the quickest way not to waste your time. There are banks that are taking applications from non-customers. And we were told yesterday at SBA that if someone asks us, do we know, we can tell who, you know, what bank is taking these applications. I know a few have reached out saying, hey, we'll take them. I know Cross River, I was with Congressman Gottheimer's group a week and a half ago, and Cross River came on and said, look, we'll take any application. So if you know a bank that's accepting, please share throughout the network and let Vicki know. Maybe she and Nina can post this on the website. So PPP, if we look at PPP and the EIDL, you can take both of those loans. Originally, I was unsure. I thought you could not. You had to take one or the other, but you can take both, but you can't use EIDL or PPP to cover payroll cost. You can use EIDL for non-payroll expenses, and you can use PPP for payroll. So it has to be used for up to 8 weeks of payroll, including benefits. They can be used to pay interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. But the majority of this, 75%, is to be used for payroll costs, to put your people back on the payroll, get them off of unemployment. And that 8 weeks starts once you get those funds dispersed into your account. A lot of folks ask me, well, what about the governor's stay-at-home orders? We can't address that. This plan for the loan forgiveness is designed to be used for paycheck protection. That's the name, paycheck protection. So however you do it, you've got to get those people back to work or hire new people. So on the 10th of April, independent contractors and sole proprietors were allowed to apply for the PPP. And so got some information on that. And then there's also the formula for looking at your employees, $100,000 max, go back 12 months. What about those that are seasonal? The banks will work with you. They'll try to get like 4 months. So you'll get like an average, your aggregate payroll costs for the 4 months. Nina, next slide, please. So PPP, the loan amount is up to 10 million. You can only have one loan. So if you have multiple businesses, you're going to have to add up your employees, and each employee, the max salary expense you can, and that includes all the benefits, and is $100,000. So their max loan is 10 million. Interest rate is 1%, deferred 6 months. Now this loan is it's a 2-year loan. Unlike EIDL is 30 years. This is 2-year. PPP, there's no collateral, there's no personal guarantees, no borrower or lender fees paid to the SBA. The SBA is not collecting those fees. This program is available through June 30th, I will add, or until the fund is depleted. That's for this iteration. Next slide, please. 75% of this funds for PPP have to be used for payroll to be forgiven. If you choose to do something other than at least 75%, then it will be a loan, a 2-year loan at 1%. So forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. So who can apply? Small businesses with 500 or fewer employees. there are some exceptions. So there is a website, small business, looking up sizes. There's only a handful with over 500 employees that this would be allowed to participate. There are a few nonprofits, vet organizations, and faith-based organizations. And again, sole proprietors and self-employed independent contractors can apply. Someone asked a question on one of the former briefs. I employ a landscaper and a nanny. Do I count? No. For purposes of this, that is not a small business, and no, that person would not be eligible to apply for a PPP. Next slide, please. Okay, so loan forgiveness determination. You will owe money when the loan is due, 2 years, if they use the loan for anything other than payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, utility payments over the 8 weeks after receiving the loan. So there was some discussion, and please understand that the SBA does not currently have a standard operating procedure, an SOP. We are operating off of Treasury's frequently asked questions and an SBA interim rule. So there's questions that I will not be able to answer that I will refer to our interim rule. Some folks have asked me, well, if my employees choose not to come back to work, they want to stay on unemployment, what do I do? The intent is to rehire at the levels before this COVID-19 and use the 75% for payroll costs. If you use less than that, it's going to be a loan. So you need to maintain your staff and payroll at less than the February 15th, 2020 level. Whatever you were operating at on February 15th, 2020, that's the level they want you to maintain. So for the seasonal businesses, that number is going to be different. And I can go into that here once we go into the questions. I'll pull up the interim rule because there is a section on that. Again, so loan forgiveness, you get this PPP. If you use 75% for payroll, it's going to be fully forgiven. So qualify. Full-time employees' head count must be maintained. Salaries and wages must be maintained. You have until June 30th to restore full-time employment and salary levels from any changes made between 15th of February and April 26th. Next slide, please. So what are the payroll costs? Salary, wages, commissions, or tips. Employee benefits, including costs for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for separation or dismissal, and retirement package, health care, including insurance premiums. Add all that up. It cannot exceed more than $100,000 per employee. So for the sole proprietors and independent contractors, what counts for their payroll costs? Wages, commissions, incomes, or net earnings from self-employment. Okay, and I believe Nina's going to share this. So you have the slides. There's definitely a lot of questions. So if I can't answer a question, I'm going to pull up my interim rule. And if it's a legal question, I will forward that on to our legal counselor, who's pretty good at getting back the ruling. But with that, I am ready to take questions, and I hope that was sufficient for the PPP overview.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. I want to let everybody know that we are going to have a session with the Department of Labor Commissioner next Thursday, April 23rd. And so a lot of these unemployment questions are going to be answered or addressed in a special session with him. And we have specifically asked him to talk about the unique situation with seasonal businesses and the unemployment extensions and things like that. So John, I thank you. I know you're going to answer a lot of questions about unemployment situations and all of that, because I know a lot of the questions are going to be about that, but I just want all of our participants in the webinar to know that that session is coming up. The New Jersey Chamber of Commerce is also having a session. I believe it's this Thursday. We're waiting for the information, to announce that to all of you today, that you'll be able to participate in that as well, because everybody does have a lot of questions about this. You know, how do we deal with people who are on unemployment and getting them back, because that is a real dilemma.
Mhm.
So with that, let's get into the questions. I know I see right now 20 questions in the chat, and we had a couple that were submitted in advance. I'm going to start with those first, John.
Okay.
So let's get going. The first question is about seasonal businesses. Please address seasonal businesses that would just be opening now and haven't yet hired. So I think the question there is, how do they apply for the PPP when they haven't yet opened? And the question behind that is, will you explain the period of time that they use their payroll and what those dates are? How they
Yes.
calculate their payroll numbers?
Yes. So good question. So I'm looking at the interim rule because I want to get the dates correct so everyone understands them. Searching. 1 second. So the banks will work with you if you have a seasonal business and you have not hired yet because your season has not opened. The banks will go back to last year, what your aggregate was for the number of months that you were open, the number of employees, the payroll, I guess you would say how much you spent last year for your seasonal employees. So since you haven't done that this year, they're going to look at last year, and providing that you have the same number, you need to keep the same number of employees. That is going to go into your math, your methodology to determine how much you can apply for. And I'm searching here, still looking, I'm going down. I saw it somewhere where it goes into the seasonal, because it's not 12 months. It's going to be they give an example of 4 months. But it comes down to contacting the bank. You do your math. The bank's not going to do the math for you. When I say the math for you, they're not going to determine how much money you're going to apply for. Cannot find it. But so, for example, let me get the methodology.
John, I believe, are those dates February 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2019?
There was something about April date. So, in fact, I really want to find this. So I get the,
And we can send it out afterwards.
okay. So I'm just going to take a note of that and get the dates. I think it might have been on the Treasury FAQs. There, here, 1 second. I'll keep looking for this one. It says my small business is a seasonal business whose activity increases from April to June. Considering activity from that period would be more accurate reflection of my business operations. However, my small business was not fully ramped up on February 15th, 2020. Am I still eligible? So the answer from the Treasury, and this is weird, the SBA is saying that whatever's on the treasury.gov, frequently asked questions, this is gospel.
Looks like John's site is frozen for just a minute. Did we lose John, Nina?
It looks like we lost him briefly, but he came back in. John,
Okay, I can hear you.
there we go.
Okay, so I'm going to go back over that. Talking about small businesses whose activity, seasonal business, they operate from April to June. So when evaluating a borrower's eligibility, a lender may consider whether a seasonal borrower was in operation on February 15th, 2020, or for an 8-week period between February 15th, 2019 and June.
John, we lost your audio. Oh, looks like maybe you're back.
I think I am back. I'm not sure. Sorry. I don't know what's happening, but I'm going back and forth to the Treasury's FAQs. Can you hear me, Nina?
I can hear you, John.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
So,
Vicky, can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you
So
now.
those dates, those seasonal 8-week period from February 15th to June 30th. So you work with your bank, and I think you're gonna have to go back to the year previous, 2019, to determine how many employees you had and to figure out how much PPP you're eligible for.
Okay. And so let's see. We're going into, on March 27th, I had an employee file for family leave due to his wife's medical condition. Oh, I just lost that screen. Something's happening here. Sorry. Okay. I'm a small business owner who submitted my PPP loan application to my local bank on April 3rd. Do you have any idea on a timeline for the application process?
Yes, so the application, once you submit your PPP, the bank will submit to the SBA that application. The SBA is turning those around, I mean, as soon as they get them pretty much. And then that bank has 10 days. So for that person who submitted on April 3rd, 13th, it's 10 calendar days. Please contact that bank and ask them for a status. You should have those funds within 10 days, and this would be the 10th day.
Okay. As a realtor, I'm an independent contractor who still has a pending sales closing for the next few weeks, but current sales have almost come to a complete halt. Does the PPP apply here?
That I do not know about realtors and pending sales. I know that you can't count for lost business for like a restaurant owner. If you project out your months of when you're providing dinners, and you can't count for that. But this is for your lost wages, your salary, your income for your payroll expenses. If you want to send that to me via email, I will send that to our legal. My email is my name, john.blackstock@sba.gov.
Okay. I'm a small business owner in Cape May and received a DocuSign document to sign yesterday for the PPP. It seems that the bank has added many other conditions. Is this normal?
So I'm not sure what other conditions they added. It can't be more than 1%. It's a 2-year loan. There should be something about the loan forgiveness. So I'm not really certain what else they added to it. They can't charge extra fees. So if whoever wrote that, send me an email with whatever conditions you think they might have added, and I'll run that up to our capital access. But if it looks like it's 1%, 2 years, talks about loan forgiveness with 75% used for payroll, that's standard.
Okay. I have a client with a new business, got a federal EIN on February 12th, 2020, but did not start payroll until March 10th, 2020. Can he still apply for the PPP loan without more payroll history than that? If so, what does he submit with the application?
Okay, Vicki, I lost connectivity again. Can you please repeat that? I heard something about 2020.
Yes. A new business got his federal EIN on February 12th, didn't start
Okay.
payroll until March 10th. can he still apply for the PPP?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. A 501c7. I
Okay.
understand that we will not be able to access the funds. Can you confirm that?
Yes, the three tax exempt are the 501c3, the 501c19, and the tribal concerns 31B 2C. So yeah, unfortunately, they're not eligible for the PPP.
So this says, as of today, my bank is still processing the loan. I was told they received 600 applications, and this is why it's taking so long. When the bank submits the application, should we receive an application number? How long should it take for the SBA to process the application? And when will business be denied? Is there a concern about funds running out?
Looks like John may have lost his audio again. I'm going to go ahead and send John a phone number to call in case that would help with the connection issues. So John, if you can hear me, you can look at your emails. Looks like John may be back. John, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Here we go.
Okay, John.
My internet is unstable.
John, I just sent you an email with a dial-in number for this call, if that would be a better way for you to have more reliable connection, just to dial in on a phone.
Okay, I'm gonna call right now.
Okay, you'll have to send me back an email with your phone number so that I know who you are to unmute you.
Okay. I just sent you the number.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for bearing with us.
Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
All right, let me go get the meeting ID.
Okay.
Sent it.
Yes, I did.
Have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID.
Okay. All right, let me write this down.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
You see it there, John?
Thank goodness for technology, right, folks?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the audio on this Zoom.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have your video muted.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry for that.
So let me reread this question to you.
Okay.
So when the bank submits the application, should you receive an application number? How long then would it take for the SBA to process the application?
So when you apply, I don't know if you're getting an application number with PPP. So you submit that, call the bank and ask them, hey, do you have all the information you need? And then when are you planning on submitting to the SBA? Once the bank does all of its due diligence, it's going to submit that to the SBA. The SBA is going to turn that around. They're not going to sit there and wait. They're not going to wait 5 days. They're going to turn it around as soon as they get it. First in, next one out. And then that bank has 10 days to provide the funds to you. Put that in your account. So 10 calendar days, okay? So once you apply, call the bank, ask them, hey, are we good? Did you submit my application? And then as the next question, a follow-up, ask them when they expect to submit the funds to your account.
And then there was a follow-up question about, will the business be denied?
The bank will tell you, they should tell you if you're not, if they're not accepting that application.
Okay.
But I've not heard of a bank denying someone. I've heard of banks saying they're not going to accept applications. I have not heard of a bank saying that they are denying you.
Okay. If there is a change in criteria in the PPP loan from 3 current months of payroll to the highest 3 months of payroll to the year, will we be able to reapply?
So that sounds like it's a seasonal business. It's up to you to determine how much money you need to borrow for your business. You have to get an aggregate payroll cost. So say you have 10 employees and you pay them, I don't know, just say $10,000. So you take that, you take your number of employees, with all their payroll expenses, that includes their benefits, their tips, their wages, compensation, if you pay healthcare or retirement, and multiply that by 12, divide it by 12, and then you multiply it by 2.5. It's up to you to determine if it's seasonal, which months you're using. You should use all the months, the 4 months. And then you're going to certify on that application that you attest that the information that you are submitting is accurate and true. The bank's not going to do that behind you. They're just going to take your application and say, look, this business is applying for this amount. And then they will move that forward.
Okay. Can an owner of multiple small businesses, LLCs, apply for the EIDL for each business enterprise?
You would roll up your businesses. So I think you can do more than one EIDL for, if you have an EIN, so yes. But for PPP, you are only entitled to one PPP loan. So if you have several campgrounds, I know there was, maybe you have a couple campgrounds or a couple restaurants. You have to do an aggregate of all your businesses, roll up all your employees, come up with your number, and submit those 2 or 3 or however many of businesses you have into one loan application.
Okay. Can a company apply for disaster loan relief and the PPP?
So the disaster loan relief, is that the advance? Is that the grant they're talking about? Or is it EIDL?
It doesn't
So,
say.
we'll just say, okay, so yes, PPP, you can apply for PPP, and you can apply for the EIDL advance. Everyone can apply for the EIDL advance. $10,000, it comes out to about $1,000 per employee. Don't know how much money is still left in that fund, but so that person can also apply for an EIDL economic injury disaster loan. However, he cannot or she cannot use EIDL and PPP for payroll purposes. You could use EIDL for non-payroll, like business expenses, anything outside of payroll, and use your PPP for payroll. Use 75% from 8 weeks from the time you get those funds, and then that loan will be no longer a loan, it'll be a grant, and it'll be forgiven.
I have a co-op shop with no employees. Only income to pay bills is dealers or vendors' rent, which we have suspended. Can I apply for the grant to use for utilities, etc.?
So co-op, again, I'm going to have to forward this to legal. That would probably go under sole proprietor. And is this person, how is this person getting paid? How is this person getting compensation and wages? Is it a draw? Is it, I'm not sure. That's a complex question, but it would probably fall under a sole proprietor. And then you've got a co-op where people are coming in and utilizing your space. Are they paying the rent? That's a complex question. Please send me that question with as much detail, john.blackstock@sba.gov.
Okay. When does the PPP loan become a forgiveness grant?
Once after 8 weeks, when you get that loan, so say you went to your bank and today is the 14th of April. In 8 weeks, the day after, they're going to look and see, did you spend 75% on payroll costs? So whoever's doing your books, your accountant, whatever, make sure that that person is on point. If it's less than 75%, that's going to be a loan. So you want to make sure you are spending 75% of that loan for payroll costs, getting those employees back gainfully employed.
Okay. On March 27th, I had an employee file for family leave due to his wife's medical condition and his being her sole caretaker. Do I pay him till it takes effect for him? As with these loans, unemployment, et cetera, is taking extremely long process.
Okay, so the benefit to the family leave, that's a paid benefit. So yes, for PPP, that counts. As far as the unemployment, that's a state issue. We really out of our swim lane, not even qualified to address it. And I know it's a significant concern because there's so many businesses where their employees are on unemployment. Not sure how that's going to play out, but you know, the ruling is you get the PPP, you need to get people back on the payroll at the numbers established when you did your math from February 15th. And that's the intent. It's Paycheck Protection. It's trying to protect the paychecks. So that is the ruling.
Okay. It appears that 75% toward payroll is not possible using 8 weeks. If we maintain our existing staff at existing salaries, 2 months is actually more than 8 weeks, assuming the 2.5% is based on 2 months plus extra for other expenses.
Okay, I appreciate that question. The guidance is just that. So if you want this loan to be forgiven, you have to spend 75% within an 8-week period to maintain your employee levels prior to February 15th, that level up to, I think it was April 30th. So is it enough? I don't know, but that is the ruling. So if you want loan forgiveness, you've got to spend 75% of whatever PPP you get to maintain your payroll.
Okay. The PPP amount was calculated at 2.5 times the monthly payroll. How can a small business get $10 million? The math doesn't add up.
Yeah, right. You know, that's a good question. So you have to have a lot of employees, a lot, and you might have multiple businesses. So say you've got 10 businesses with, I don't know, several hundred employees. I don't know what the average loan size is, but 10 million, I don't know where they came up with that number, but that's the limit for this program. So what you do is you take the number of employees you had and just say a non-seasonal business. So say you had, I don't know, 100 employees, and say they were getting $100,000 each per year. And that includes all of their benefits, and that's the payroll that you're getting. So 100, what's that, $1 million? So you take that and you divide by 12, you want a monthly cost, and you multiply that by 2.5. So this is a short term. I don't think you're going to get $10 million. I really don't know how that math adds up to that amount, but that is what the Treasury, Congress said this is how this program is going to work. I know that's not what you want to hear. Loans definitely going to be less than that. Isn't enough. Hopefully the economy will be open in a few months, that you know, you'll use the proceeds from this PPP to put people back on the payroll, and then the economy is getting back up on its feet. You do 75% or more, and that loan will no longer be a loan, it'll be forgiven.
We received 25% of the approved PPP loan. Will we receive the full amount of the loan? Okay,
that's something that you go back to the bank and you submitted a number for your loan, which you were qualified to apply for. Why that was less, I don't know. The bank should not do the numbers for you. So whoever is saying they're only getting 25% of that PPP, please contact the bank and ask them that question.
We are an LLC, so we have employees and the two partners take draws. Is our understanding correct that our draws up to 100,000 can be included in payroll?
Okay, so it sounds like two people are running the business. They've got W-2 employees, but they're not W-2. They're taking a draw. So, yeah, please send me that question in an email. I'll send that up because it does get confusing when you start talking about employees and then having draws. So if you have a draw, I've only dealt with a sole proprietor where they don't have employees. And that was pretty easy. But so now you've got employees, they're eligible for the PPP. The business can apply, and then please send me that email, john.blackstock@sba.gov.
I think the next question is along the same lines. We applied for PPP and included our two owners that pull guaranteed salary. This was included in the figures for 2.5 times requested amount. Do these two owners count towards payroll forgiveness?
And are they W-2s? They're not. I'm going to say they're probably not W-2s. They take a draw. I don't know. That is not in our information. So again, legal is going to have to help out on this one.
Okay.
The bottom line is we don't want to screw anybody. We want to make sure that folks are applying for PPP, but I want to make sure that, loan forgiveness, that something I say, I don't want someone to apply and say, well, I'm taking a draw, and now find out, 8 weeks down the road that, oh, I can't use that. So I'm going to forward whatever questions I get up to our legal, and then I'll respond directly back, or the lawyer will respond directly back to the person who sent the email.
Okay. You indicate that you have until June 30th, 2020 to rehire at the level you had prior to February 15th. If you rehire on June 30th to pre-February 15th levels, but prior to June 30th, you were below February 15th, do you still qualify for forgiveness?
So the intent is to reestablish your levels. So let me get the dates. For the forgiveness. So again, no one wants to get anyone in trouble. They want to make sure. So I'm going to read this. So can my PPP loan be forgiven in whole or in part? So I hope this helps. Yes, the amount of loan forgiveness can be up to the full principal amount of the loan and any accrued interest. That is, the borrower will not be responsible for any loan payment if the borrower uses all of the loan proceeds for forgivable purposes described below and employee and compensation levels are maintained. The actual amount of loan forgiveness will depend in part on the total amount of payroll costs, payments of interest on mortgage obligations incurred before February 15th, 2020, rent payments on leases dated before February 15th, and utility payments under service agreements dated before February 15th over the 8-week period following the date of the loan. However, not more than 25% of the loan forgiveness may be attributable to non-payroll costs. Now, while the CARE Act provides that borrowers are eligible for forgiveness in that amount equal to the sum of payroll costs and any payments of mortgage interest, rent, and utilities, the administrator has determined that non-payroll portion of the forgivable loan amount should be limited to effectuate the core purpose of the statute and ensure finite programs resources are voted primarily to payroll. Okay, so a lawyer wrote that. Let's see. Further, the administrator and the Secretary of Treasury believe that applying this threshold to loan forgiveness is consistent with the structure of the Act, which provides a loan amount 75% of which is equivalent to 8 weeks of payroll, 8 weeks divided by 2.5 months equals 56 days, divided by 76 days equals 75%. Okay, I don't know if that answered the question, but okay. Vicki, are you still there?
Yes. I'm here.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that did not answer the question.
So do you want to get a determination and send it to us?
Yes, could you have that person send me an email, please?
Okay. And then if you could send your answer, copy me on the email and we'll share it. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's go to the next question. Does this cover gross or net income, and does it cover company matching funds such as Social Security and Medicare?
Okay, so I'm going to read what is payroll cost. And if it's not in this, I'm going to say, 1 second. 1 second. Wait, I'm scrolling down, getting what qualifies as payroll cost. Payroll costs consist of compensation to employees whose principal place of residence is the United States in the form of salary, wages, commissions, or similar compensation. Cash tips or the equivalent based on employer records of past tips, or in the absence of such records, a reasonable, good faith employer estimate of such tips. Payment for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for separation or dismissal, payment for the provision of employee benefits consisting of group health care coverage, including insurance premiums and retirement, payment of state and local taxes assessed on compensation of employees, and for an independent contractor or sole proprietor, wage, commissions, income, or net earnings from self-employment or similar compensation. So is there anything that is expressly excluded from the definition of payroll cost? Yes, the Act expressly excludes the following: any compensation of an employee whose principal place of residence is outside the United States, compensation of an individual employee in excess of an annual salary of $100,000, federal employment taxes imposed or withheld between February 15th, 2020 and June 30th, including the employees and employer's share of FICA, that's the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, Railroad Retirement Act taxes, and income taxes required to be withheld from employees, and qualified sick and family leave wages for which a credit is allowed under sections 7001 and 7003 of the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. This is Public Law 116-127. So if it's not part of that definition, I'm going to say it does not count as a payroll cost.
Okay. Next question. We've applied for the PPP through Bank of America on April 4th, but have not been able to get confirmation of the status. At some point, will we get a confirmation email from the SBA that the application is processing or that we have been approved?
So the SBA is not reaching out to any applicant. What happens, the bank is the conduit. I recommend you contact Bank of America, ask them about the confirmation of your application and a status. Put the ball back in their court. Ask them where they sit on your application.
Okay. As a seasonal hotel that is open year-round, but with reduced staff in the off-season, most of our employees need to be on site to work, and we are unable to bring them back since we are closed. When we reopen and all are hired back, are there allowances for forgiveness because we cannot rehire? And please explain how the headcount rules for the seasonal businesses like ours.
Okay, so the bank's going to work with you if you are a seasonal, so you have a hotel that's only open during the warmer months. So you're unable to do the 12 months aggregate. So you'll just do the aggregate for the number of months that you are open. But when you get your number for the loan, for the PPP, again, the whole purpose of this is to rehire people, and you have to have those people rehired by June 30th. So normally, if we weren't in this environment, my guess is that you'd be open probably around this time or close by. So work with your bank, tell them that you're seasonal, and this is your math, and this is what your plan is. And then you have to take 75% of whatever that PPP is. And once you get those funds dispersed, you need to start rehiring or getting people back on the payroll to be forgiven. If not, it's going to be a 1% loan.
Okay. What if you submitted to the bank, but the bank has not submitted the application because they have 600 applications to process?
I would contact the bank, ask them if they have a timeline, and then you could always have that bank pull that application if they're so swamped or overwhelmed, and then find another bank and submit an application with another bank.
Okay.
But definitely call the bank and ask what they think. When are they going to submit these? They really shouldn't be sitting on these. They should have staffed up and get these out, because the banks know that they know exactly how many loans and how much money is still left in the CARES Act for this $349 billion fund.
Okay. This is a two-part question. Do I include group health insurance with payroll, and is telephone and cable expense considered a utility expense?
So the first one, yes. And the second one, utilities, yes, that's part of it. What qualifies as payroll? And
Sorry, it was, is the group health insurance a payroll expense, and then are the telephone and cable expenses considered utility?
So health insurance is part, and then utilities, if you're paying cable and telephone, those are utility bills. Yes, you can add those as payroll costs.
Okay. The next question was for the chamber, and they're asking if we would share the answers to the legal questions. So John, if you would.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I mean, it's a legal determination. I don't want to give that information. And
Right.
A lot of this, again, coming from the frequently asked questions posted on treasury.gov and an SBA interim rule, it doesn't go into the fidelity of some of these complex questions when you have a business that, the owners are taking a draw, but they're paying their employees. So how much can they qualify for and what's forgiven? That fidelity is not spelled out in this. So my intent is to share information, but not incorrect information. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and say, I don't know. And I think that's good for you and for me, because I don't want to put you in a position. So I'll let our legal guy take a look, and I'll definitely, Vicki, share it with you, and you can post it with the folks on this call.
Thank you, John. Next question. I have not needed to lay anyone off to date. Is it possible the SBA will deny my application because my employees are still fully employed?
Absolutely not. No, we want you to keep them off of unemployment and get this economy back up and operating as quickly as we can. So Congress said, look, we don't want unemployment. So I don't know. I can't speak about unemployment. I don't know if your employer says, hey, come back to work, does that stop your unemployment? I don't know. But the whole intent is to protect the paycheck, keep people working.
Okay, great. Is there a difference between the EIDL loan and the EIDL advance? Are there two different applications?
It's the same application, but it's two different programs. So if you go to www.disasterloan.sba, that's Sierra Bravo Alpha, .gov, Golf Oscar Victor, /ELA Echo Lima Alpha, you go there and say apply for the EIDL. Inside that application, it'll say, are you applying for the EIDL advance? It's a box. You have to click that. It'd be nice if you could just do them both at one fell swoop, but I don't think that's how it evolved into two different things. The EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and then they said, hey, look, we got to get money into the hands of these small business owners faster. Use the same portal, the same loan portal, put a box on there. If you're looking for EIDL Advance, click that. And yes, they are different. The EIDL Advance, max of $10,000. It comes out to about $1,000 per employee. You can use that for whatever business expense you desire. That is a grant. The EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, is a loan. It is a 3.5% interest loan. If you're a nonprofit, private nonprofit, one of the three, it's a 2.75% for 30 years. And again, you cannot use the EIDL loan and the PPP for payroll purposes. So a lot of people are taking out the EIDL loans and then they're deducting that from the PPP because they want to use PPP for payroll for forgiveness.
Okay.
Just makes more economical sense to take the PPP 1%, turn it into a forgiveness or a grant.
Okay. The next question is also about the EIDL. How does the EIDL grant work with no employees for self-employed business people?
So you'd only apply, you don't have one employee, so you might get a grant for $1,000.
Okay.
But that is to keep you working.
Okay. Next one, the calculation is based on W-2 employees only. The PPP is not for owners that get a 1065 and a K1. My bank required 12 months of 941s and 940. My draw is not in those numbers.
So that's something you have to talk to the bank about and prove that you do have some sort, you were paid some sort of compensation from your business. So yes, you're not going to follow the normal methodology. You're not going to have the W-2s. You're not going to do the five-step methodology. But the banks will work with you. If you're a sole proprietor, please call your bank, discuss your individual situation, and that includes independent contractors or 1099s.
Okay. Okay, we just got a vague EIDL email this morning implying that we should have the $10,000 grant soon. Will the SBA reach out to us directly regarding the next steps in the loan process?
Okay, that's a great question. So I had an email from a gentleman who has a business. He applied for both EIDL and the EIDL Advance. He sent me a snapshot of that, probably the same email you're discussing. And he said, hey, I got this. Oh my God, do I need to reapply? What's going on? He was frantic. And then I said, no, I believe that's a form email. And then within 2 minutes, he said, oh my God, I got my EIDL Advance. And they said they're going to reach out to me about the EIDL. So that is news to me. So if you got that, chances are if you apply for the advance, check your account. I know they're releasing funds very soon. This week is when they're starting it. So I can say with certainty that the process is working. It took a little bit longer than was anticipated, but for the advance, those are being submitted, the funds into your account, and then somebody will talk to you via email, most likely, about your EIDL, your loan.
Okay. The next question says, if we applied for the EDA, and that's the NJEDA loan, and the EIDL loan, will the SBA contact us if we are approved? We applied right through the site and not through the bank.
So you're probably going to get an email. It's a form email for EIDL. I can't talk about NJEDA, what they're doing. That's a state issue. But I can tell you that for EIDL, you will probably get a form, an email, a blast. Pretty much everyone who applied gets it, which is a good thing because I think you can expect funds being deposited into your account really, really soon.
Okay. And let's see, I believe that was the last question. There were a couple other comments that people were sharing some additional information based on their processes, but that was the last of the questions. So I don't know, John, if you have any other closing comments that you wanted to share, but we don't have any other questions in the chat.
Vicki, I do want to, someone was asking about the draw and the, sole proprietor, and didn't have a W-2. So every lender, this is taken from our interim rule too, okay? Each lender's underwriting obligation under the PPP is limited to the items and reviewing the Paycheck Protection Application form. Borrowers must submit such documentation as is necessary to establish eligibility, such as payroll processor records, payroll tax filings, or Form 1099 miscellaneous, or income and expenses from a sole proprietorship. For borrowers that do not have any such documentation, the borrower must provide other supporting documentation, such as bank records, sufficient to demonstrate the qualifying payroll amounts. So for those people that are sole proprietors, and I think that came under, what was it, the co-ops, I would talk to the bank and just say, look, I don't have a W-2, I'm not an independent contractor, I don't have a 1099, but I've got other supporting documentation, bank records, sufficient to demonstrate the qualifying payroll amount. Something that states that each month you're getting this amount from the business. So I apologize, I can't answer all the questions. Again, some of these questions are complex, but please send them to me. And also, full disclosure, I've got presentations lined up pretty much one right after the next. My next one is at 1:45, so I'll get on these questions right away, but then I'll probably be this afternoon finishing up with some of your questions. So please have patience. Please know that I'm not blowing anyone off. My intent is to get information out to you quickly, accurate information, and that's my goal. So if I don't respond to you right away, just know that I don't have any emotion in this process. I want to treat everyone with dignity and respect and make sure the information is out there correctly.
Okay.
So I'll take those hard questions and forward those to our legal counsel. Vicki, I will send them back to you and CC whoever submitted the question, or I might just, I'll respond to all with whatever the answer is.
Thank you, John. And one more time, would you repeat the website for the EIDL loan application?
Sure. So it's www.disasterloan, DISASTERLOAN at Sierra Bravo Alpha .gov, Golf Oscar Victor, with a /ELA, Echo Lima Alpha.
Okay. And then we, your email address, we have posted in the chat. You want to give that one more time?
Sure, it's my name. It's John, JOHN Blackstock, like the color black, stock, STOCK, at SBA Sierra Bravo Alpha .gov, Golf Oscar Victor.
Okay.
That's it. Nina's got it.
Yeah. And just real quick, I do see one final question. I don't know if you can answer it in short, but how is the EIDL amount calculated? It only asks for gross revenue and the cost of goods sold.
Good question. I don't know the methodology. People are asking me, how much am I eligible for? I don't know. And when you get money deposited, I don't know. No one in the, I don't know how they're calculating the EIDL. I really don't.
Okay. All right.
But you can call, there's an 800 number, 800-659-2955. That's the SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance. That's the there you go. She's got it there. Good job, Nina.
Okay. So John, again, thank you so much for sharing all this information and helping us out today. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again soon. and we'll share all the answers to the legal questions you're going to provide to everyone that was on the webinar today. So
Great.
thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.